December 18th meeting of the Quincy Planning Board. First, I'll take roll call.
Ali Shaughnessy present.
Member Kelly present.
Larry Lusso, present.
Kimberly Beelan present.
Christopher Meade, present. BJ Foley, present.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. The board requests that you please be courteous to the proceedings and turn off your cell phones. The planning board reserves the right to administer oaths through the chair, summon witnesses, call for the production of papers, cross-examine any person giving testimony during the proceedings, declare recess, limit debate, inspect the subject site or buildings during reasonable hours, and adjourn the hearing for cause. The order of business will be as announced by the chair. All questions will be directed to the chair. Any person wishing to speak, please raise your hand for recognition. Once recognized, please stand, state your name and address, specific interests in the proceedings, and special credentials, if any, pertaining to the presentation. Please speak slowly and within the context of the hearing matter. The hearing is being stenographed and taped for the public record. The planning board reserves the right to exclude any unnecessary, irrelevant, repetitive, or harassing presentations. First, I have an announcement, and hopefully Rob might be, or Mr. Stevens might be able to help with this. So there is, I guess, I was going to say a presentation, but something going on in the museum, Quincy 400.
Exhibit
is
thank you. Now open next door. Yes.
Yes. So
it's open to the public.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Couldn't think of exhibit. So that is here in this building and worth checking out. First matter on the agenda is to vote on the minutes of the November 20th, 2024 regularly scheduled planning board meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, so that's unanimous. The first matter on the agenda is a continued public hearing on 10 Independence Avenue, planning board case number 2024-13.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Taccio, and I represent Marina Bay Management Services, LLC. To my left is Gabe Crocker, who's with Crocker Design Group, and Mr. Thomas O'Connell from Marina Bay Management Services is here in the room as well. This is the second meeting continuation from earlier, again, 10 Independence. Basically, in the interim, we were asked to respond to the comments. There were additional questions that were posed by the board. So we spent time in the intervening period doing that. We responded to comments of, we've got Beals and Thomas for the planning, which was submitted. Also, the engineering department submitted comments. And then finally, TPAL was submitted to us. Everything was responded to by Crocker Design Group, and you folks have those. Additionally, there were some open questions that are touched on there that will help quickly with exhibits. If I may, Joe, I've got, first of all, there was a question about the rooftop, and we've basically have that in your submission package. What I wanted to do is just bring that up to you. North is up above, and you've got the head house, which is there for the elevator, and then also there's the stairwell. The question was, how tall is that? And it's 6 foot 6 inches. I didn't have that information at the last meeting. Also, there was an excellent question about the condensers. Would they be roof mounted? The answer is yes. And where would they be? I knew that they'd be towards the center. We array them. Those are those squares that you see. They're 40 feet in height, but they're also recessed down low. So they wind up reading lower up on the roof. The distance is about 25 feet from the front, and it's, say, 17-ish on average from the sides. If we go to the next slide, please, Joe, what we did was we asked Chu, the leader specifically, to come up with some exhibits to show, because there were questions. We'll be able to see those from various spots. And what we did was we have a pedestrian which is dropped down on Franklin Street next to the building. Also, we drop pedestrians down on the sidewalk. The lines of sight that are shown display that if you're across the street on Franklin, you cannot see any of those units that are up there. Everything is basically a line of sight that you basically see up off the top corner of the roof, and then none of that is visible to to somebody who's observing. Similarly, on the bottom side, we've done the same thing on Independence Avenue, going over across the street, and also on the sidewalk. And again, from either of those two vantage points, you cannot see either the condensers or the elevator head house. The next shows over across the way the point. So if you look at, we know that it's an extremely large intersection. If you go over to where the point is over near the Adams house, someone who's standing over there, I think it's 136 feet. So we go from curb to curb. We also have a pedestrian there on the point of the intersection of Independence and Franklin. And someone standing over on the curb, you look and you see above, you cannot see that head house. We asked the leader for the calculations. She said that it would take 166 feet away before you start to see it. And when I say see it, you would start to see a sliver right above the edge, and then as you start walking backwards, looking up and looking backwards, all of a sudden it would start to emerge, very slowly. So I would suggest to you folks that this, with the height, with the placement of these structures, that they're responsibly placed. It's absolutely minimum. You have to be extremely distant to be able to look for it and then be able to see something beyond the distances that we're talking about. And then finally, if we could go on to the next one, some of the comments that came from the TPAL, thank you very much, Joe. Comments were really helpful. TPAL has come up with a sidewalk enhancement plan that is shown. This is supplied from them. And, the questions were, if going forward in the future, as far as the intersection is concerned, if there was an overall effort at the city to be able to put something together to enhance and make this intersection more usable, more safe. We talked about all the curb openings. We talked about all of the pedestrian crosswalks, how they go to the wrong places. It's been suggested that if we're going to invest all of the money in the sidewalks, in the public spaces, that dollars could be expended in a way that more generally advanced the public interest in those public spaces. So if you take a look at what we've got there, is we've got north is in effect, we put it this way, going off to the left, the Adams house is there to the left. If you look at the site itself, you can see this is a substantial bump out. What that does is that carries around the sidewalk all of the specifications we talked about last time, as far as the concrete sidewalk, granite curbs, the brick paver strips, et cetera. We'd commit to extending all of that. Also, there is significant ADA changes that have to be made there with respect to the pads, realignment of the crosswalks, and those are all things that we're identifying. We'll be responsible for designing different components, and then I know that there's we anticipate there's going to be a requirement for monetary contribution towards those safety improvements as well. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that's here. I know that you have it in your packages, but I wanted to pull it up so that everyone could kind of take it in. It's very progressive thinking, and it's someone with a city that listened to some of the existing conditions, and it's an opportunity to leverage private investment, private dollars to be able to start to advance some of the goals of the city. Making these changes, and I'll note, if you can, now that we've got the lost curb cut on the second side of Independence, we're able to actually put in a traffic, not traffic, but a parking lane, more formalized, that's there. All very important. So we heard early on, parking's a problem, et cetera, et cetera. This goes towards starting to formalize some aspects like that. So everything comes together. It's very helpful. Can things be done on other aspects of wings of this? Certainly, have we designed them? No, but I anticipate that that's part of an overall look. One of the things that you'll note is that there's a dedicated lane when you're coming down Franklin, you're coming north, there's a dedicated left-hand turn, which, there's room for it, we'll design it, et cetera. So compared to the existing condition, this is one of those projects that has the opportunity to improve what people live and experience when they go there today. With that, I think that concludes my presentation. We can take any questions or?
Sure. Let me see if anybody has questions. Any questions?
No.
No?
John?
Yes. Oh, you're all set.
No, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let me see if the public has any
Great, thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing. We have sign-in sheets, so if you want to sign in, say you're for or against, or otherwise just present, you're welcome to do so. It is a public hearing, so if you'd like to come up and speak on this project, you're welcome to. Okay, we'll give it a call again. Is anybody?
think
Okay.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, okay, perfect.
Good evening. I'm Richard Sweeney, 1 Independence Avenue. Really wasn't prepared to talk. I was told that this was not going to be open, that the public discussion was already done, but I hate to be a broken record, but I'm still concerned about the height of the building. This information here, is this just a proposal, or is this going to happen? Is this just
Yeah.
a wish list, or?
No, this will actually happen if the project is approved. So as part of the site plan review, these are some of the elements that affect questions that were made, and then it's a proposal. So it's our intention that with approval, this will actually be constructed.
All right, so you're gonna lose a lane for traffic, it's just gonna be one lane, and then parking on the right, yeah, right. This will be the main lane coming this way, and this is gonna be parking?
Yeah, that's up to TPAL in their traffic designs. It's engineered as something that's proposed as an improvement, and if they don't want it constructed, I mean, makes a lot of sense. When I saw this, I saw it as taking advantage of the deficiencies that are there now today, specifically that curb opening, it just dumps into the intersection.
Yeah, this is the travel lane, but they're gonna take a right, or they're gonna come into Quincy Square, right? This one, then come this one, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Today I took a ride down Washington Street to Edison Street. There's a 4-story building going up on the corner there. I don't know if it came before you or not, but you look at that thing and it's 4 stories. I'm trying to project what it looks like, what this will look like compared to that. And this is just too big for this small postage size lot. And I don't want to be hopping at it, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of it. When you're standing, like the pictures that we just saw, the pedestrian looking up, it's massive when you're looking up at a 4-story building. And I just don't think it's conducive for this area. So again, that's my objection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this project? Oh, yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Reardon. I live at 46 High Street. I have a confession to make. I'm a professional planner, and I've taught planning for many years at UMass Boston. So I have no problem with the idea of redevelopment of that site, but I don't think this project is really what the neighborhood needs, and I don't think it complements what we have. I agree with Mr. McSweeney that given the height of the existing buildings, including some very important historical buildings, the National Park Service, 2 presidential birthplaces, most neighborhoods would die to have that as an amenity, as an asset. You're celebrating the 400th year history of Quincy. That's an important part of the story. To put across the street from that national park site a 5-story building is just, I think, unthinkable. When you also take a step back and look at the height of the existing residential buildings, they tend to be 2 stories. There's 1 or 2 Victorians that have a peaked roof that might go 3. But basically, this would be incompatible with what's there and the historic purpose. The second thing I'm concerned about has to do actually with our colleagues' comments about traffic safety. The entrance and the exit to this building for those folks who will be living there and also visiting and making deliveries is so close to a busy corner that is not well engineered now, that is actually quite complex to move through. And increasingly, given the good development in Quincy, we have a lot of traffic built up, usually at the red lights. So the question is, how are people going to easily get in and out of this new 5-story building so close to a very busy and oddly shaped intersection. So that's a question I have. The other thing that I'm thinking about is it's the design of the building. We haven't seen tonight the architectural renderings, maybe they've been updated, but I don't think they draw upon the best of what is some very interesting and high quality local vernacular architecture. So I think the design isn't the best we could do. Another point is we know that Quincy is growing, Boston region is growing. One of the unintended side effects is climate change, and the aspect that I'm most interested in is extreme heat. And to what extent are the developers taking into consideration in their design of the building ways in which they can reduce the negative impact of a big bulky building on the surrounding ambient air temperatures by looking at perhaps a green roof, the treatment of the outside of the building. The one site plan I saw, I mean, one of the ways you deal with extreme heat by new heavy mass buildings is through greenery. And this is just, there is none. They're building right out to the end of the building line, and there's just a couple of proposed spots for a tree. And I don't think that's really what we need. I think there needs to be more setbacks. I think the designers need to look at the possibility of awnings, which have some historical precedent, which would take some sunshine off of the surrounding areas. The last 2 points I just want to make are have to do with the economics of the project. And we were at the informational meeting that the folks at McKay's were kind enough to host, and our council members were there, is, what are the price points for these units? And how is that going to impact what is already an increasingly hot real estate market in that neighborhood, in which, for those of us who go to neighborhood meetings and talk to our neighbors, is having a really negative impact on people with limited income, particularly the elderly, longtime residents, and their ability to stay. So my feeling is if they're going to request something that wouldn't normally be permitted under the zoning, a 5-story building with the number of units they're talking about, and if it's going to be at market rate, then the city ought to push back and say that 1 or 2 of the units ought to be dedicated through cross subsidies to make them truly affordable for low-income residents of our neighborhood, and that there ought to be a set aside. And then lastly, tonight we don't have much of a turnout, but the last 2 meetings I've been to, there's considerable neighborhood concern about this project. So in terms of the way residents, I've been in the neighborhood for 9 years, so I'm not a long-term resident yet. I think in Quincy the rule is you got to be here 50 years before you're an experienced member of the community. But there's considerable neighborhood concern about it, that it's just an incompatible change that's not going to bring as much benefit to the community as it's going to in the short run create some construction disruptions, but also perhaps add to the displacement pressure. And if it's going to be, if before it's approved, I would want to see some kind of social impact statement on the impact of this building and others like it that are in this immediate planning district on current ability of residents, given their median incomes, which tend to be more working class, to stay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I must admit that I wasn't preparing to speak tonight. I thought this was a meeting for the developer, so I have nothing prepared. But I do want to thank the gentleman before me, and I think we need to be smart about listening to his message. He is definitely a planner, and he's been there, done that, and he's calling to our attention some very critical, important decision-making points. Before we go ahead and approve anything, we all should be comfortable with it. We all should be proud of it. It should be something we want to, look to the future for and have it be a part of the community, not about something that shouldn't have happened or that was too big or too small or not the right thing. I think we also have alternatives when we look at that space. What is it that's appropriate to be there? Is it a condominium? Is it a rental property? Is it a park? Is it open space? Is it a welcome center for Quincy? Is it a community center for the neighborhood? Because I don't think this neighborhood has one, although Ward 2 does, and I know it's very popular. What are the options? And what can we do to support the developer if it's going to be a condominium? What would be appropriate architecturally for that space? I know there's safety issues and there's concerns. Building and construction is very complicated, it's very expensive, and we want this to be profitable for the builder if it's approved, and if it's not approved, support the builder in other options that he might have available to him. I see myself as a negotiator, as a compromiser, as a collaborative agency that would be very happy to work with the city and with the builder and his legal counsel to be comfortable with what the neighbors are calling our attention to and what the developer might need to move forward. I appreciate the opportunity, but please listen to the gentleman, and I didn't catch his name, but I thought there was a value added because he's looking at this for a long-term impact that it will have for the visual, and not only visual, but serve the community. So thank you very much. I don't know if I told you my name, Mary Ann Peak, Superintendent at the Adams National Historical Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How are you guys? My name is Clark Zera. I live at 7 Independence Ave, which is right across this property right at the moment. I think I'm one of the few people that lives directly across from the site. I get to stare at it every day. I've been through a few neighborhood meetings. I've seen some of the changes that they've made. I personally would love to see something, happen at this property over here. Right now, it's just an extreme eyesore. A lot of old cars, flat tires. We're having constantly some issue with some homeless people, drunk people over there. A few people that have tried to break into my car as well. I think they hang around the lot, so if something can be built there, I personally would love to see it. I think we've done enough changes, or at least I've seen enough changes where I think personally it is an acceptable project for the area. So I just wanted to voice my support for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
May I respond?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. I just want to quickly respond to the gentleman. A lot of his conclusions don't seem to match up with the presentations. It's not a 5-story building, it's a 4th story with the top one hidden within the mansard roof. We talked about the openings, the danger of the intersection. It currently has 4 curb openings. 2 of them are right on the intersection. 1 of them at least opens into an active crosswalk. The curb openings proposed are as far back on the property as can be so as to maximize the queues and the openings. So to be a professor of planning and not recognize that fact, it's things like that. Facts are important. It's extremely important. So we're doing the actual opposite. Lasting 400, it's a gas station. We talk about the impact on the neighborhood, impact on the beautiful Adams site. We agree. It's horrible, as Mr. Zara said, it's a gas station. With respect to shadows, et cetera, it's nearly 100% pervious pavement, black pervious pavement. Putting in the building, we're going to increase the plantings. Additionally, shadows that are cast down that massive intersection have a tremendously positive effect on heat sink. So that's really big. Economics. If you want to affect price in a neighborhood, supply and demand, This is going to bring 9 residential units to the neighborhood, make it available. There are 0 residential neighbors who are there now, so increasing the supply is going to have a positive effect within the neighborhood. Moreover, I will say, I believe Mr. Martin, who is the direct abutter, which is at 20 Independence, I believe submitted a letter of support today. Appreciate if you could recognize that. Mr. Zara, 7 Independence across the street. Isn't that interesting? Another person who looks at it every day. I will note some of the people who spoke at the neighborhood meeting who said that this was very positive, all tended to be of a younger generation. And what they spoke to was the vibrancy of the neighborhood, having the opportunity to have new families come in and to have different uses, families, neighbors, people who are there who it's active. And I noted when Mr. Zara came up, I didn't know what he was going to say, so to hear him speak, that resonated with the people who spoke positively. It tends to be very generational, which is interesting, and I think, is what I said, it's about change. And I don't think anybody is, really has their heart set on it, loves that gas station. It's really bad, that's all agreed by everybody. But going forward, some people embrace change, they can see it, and they can recognize the positive attributes. Some people like things the way that they are. This isn't going to stay the way that it is forever, but if it doesn't go forward, at least from the site plan level, we can't be in a situation where we can invest in the property. Thanks so much, didn't intend to speak again, so sorry about that.
Thank you. All right, and with that, yes.
Well, you gotta,
Oh, read the letter. No, I had it in front of me. So we did receive a letter from Martin Realty Management LLC, Leo Martin. I am the owner of 20 Independence Avenue, Quincy, the sole direct abutter to the south of 10 Independence Avenue. I have reviewed the project proposed by Peter O'Connell of Marina Bay Management and wish to express my support for the proposal. The proposed project presents further investment in our community, and the residential building is complementary to the neighborhood. I urge support of this proposal. Okay, now, is there a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and, I just wanted to, before we get to the department's recommendation, I just wanted to make some notes, just because we heard some things, one reference, a lot of reference tonight to height. That's, the zoning board, that's not really within our purview. Our purview is the site plan and special permit for the parking waiver. This will need to go before the zoning board, and that height issue is within their purview or its purview. I believe this also goes before historic, so there's an opportunity to comment on that as well. The affordable unit that was mentioned, that only is triggered if there's 10 units. This is 9 units, so it's not subject to it. And I think what Mr. Reardon proposed in terms of, a social impact statement, concerns relative to temperature, those are all really great planning objectives as a municipality that you would want to pursue, incorporate into your bylaws. But to the extent those objectives are not codified in our bylaws today, this applicant is not subject to those, and we can't hold this applicant to different standards that aren't applicable to all applicants. So I think on kind of a municipal-wide level, great to pursue those objectives, but if they're not in place right now, it's really not fair, and it's not the duty of this board to hold an applicant to those elevated standards. So I just want to comment on that.
great, thank you.
So the
And-
department has a recommendation?
Yes, we do, and before I read the recommendation, I just want to spend a little time on the graphic on the board, and we heard some comments from the audience as well with regards to this bump out. The concept for the bump out was provided by the city, by the city's traffic, parking, alarm and lighting department, because we've looked at this intersection for some time, and it's big, and it is in need of a modification and an update. We've had the proponent agree, and as the board knows, most of our cases, we put a condition on there for the replacement of sidewalks. In this case, the proponent has agreed to do sidewalks that aren't typical. They are gonna have decorative brick strip, there's gonna have landscaping pits, and there may be some impacts to some electrical work. So what you're gonna hear in the department's recommendation is a condition that the applicant does the engineered site plan for the sidewalk, and that DPW and TPAL have a chance to review and approve that before it goes to construction. You'll also hear a condition that speaks to the sidewalk condition as a separate condition, the brick strip, the tree pits. And for where the intersections or the crosswalks are modified, there is a requirement, an ADA requirement, that the ADA receiving panel on the opposite side of the street is also replaced. And then thirdly, through conversations with T-PAL, there is again a fire alarm post and a few other electrical posts and some striping, and they thought that a cash contribution could be provided and that those activities would be carried out by the city in its normal, painting. So it's a sidewalk condition, but you're gonna see it broken into three potential conditions. And any questions before I read, or? Okay, very good. After consideration of the site plan accompanying documents, the comments received from the city staff, department recommends the board approve site plan review under Quincy zoning ordinance Title 17, Section 9.5.1, site plan review and special permit under 5.1.17, parking waivers subject to the below listed special and general conditions. Special condition 1, applicant shall obtain all necessary variances and if applicable, special permits from the City of Quincy Zoning Board of Appeal. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit a final engineered streetscape design plan, streetscape design and restriping plan that includes a curb extension into the intersection of Franklin and Independence Avenue to the Department of Public Works and Department of Traffic Parking, Alarm and Lighting for review and approval. 3, the applicant shall reconstruct the sidewalk for the entire property frontage along Franklin Street and Independence Avenue with a new cement concrete sidewalk, broom finish with a border and tool joints, and reset or replace granite curbing as specified by the Department of Public Works. Applicant shall provide ADA and AAB compliant sidewalks and wheelchair ramps at all crosswalks within the site with reciprocal ramps across Independence Avenue and Franklin Street. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide an impact fee contribution of $20,000 to the Department of Traffic, Parking and Lighting and Alarm to fund further engineering, design, and construction of the roadway and traffic signal elements. Special condition 5, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall obtain a drain permit from the Department of Public Works. 6, the applicant shall perform a water flow test with the city's water department. 7, 1 week prior to any land disturbance activities, the applicant shall conduct an on-site inspection with the City of Quincy and/or its designated representative to observe the erosion controls installed at the site and review the erosion controls anticipated to be employed during construction. 8, the existing pipes, sewer main, and manholes on the street from Trescott Street to Independence Avenue shall be inspected with television pre- and post-development in order to check the condition of the system. Television report and video clips shall be submitted to the city engineer for assessment. 9, prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, the applicant shall submit an operation and maintenance plan for the project's stormwater system, which shall include the following: identify any limitations on the use of salt and/or de-icing chemicals, if any, restrictions on snow stockpiling as it relates to sight lines or placement within the stormwater BMPs. A minimum of 3 years of inspection and cleaning records shall be available for review and inspection. Inspections shall be conducted by a qualified professional such as a civil engineer or environmental scientist. The maintenance plan shall be recorded at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. Special conditions 10. The City of Quincy and/or the city's designated representative shall observe the construction of stormwater management systems at the following times: upon a completion of excavation and upon a completion of chamber and crushed stone installation, but prior to backfill. Applicant shall provide at least 72 hours notice for said inspections. 11, the entire proposed stormwater and sewer system shall be cleaned and flushed prior to its final acceptance. 12, applicant shall conduct a demolition asbestos survey for any existing structures to be demolished. If there's any asbestos-containing materials present, they must be removed by a licensed contractor, and a post-abatement inspection must be performed by a DLI-certified project monitor. A walk-through inspection conducted by the Quincy Health Department is required prior to demolition. 13, the applicant shall consult with the Quincy Health Department on noise mitigation measures for project-related noise-generating activities to comply with local and state regulations. 14, the applicant shall submit a written rodent control plan to the Health Department for review and approval prior to any site activity. Said plan must be designed for the duration of the project and include at minimum the following: name, contact information of a licensed pest control operator to be retained by the project proponent for the duration of the project. B, a scope of proposed plan for control of rodents, including number, location, and frequency of monitoring bait stations and anticipated length of service. And C, a summary of actions to be taken to prevent rodent problems at the construction site. 15, the applicant shall develop and submit a written dust control plan to the Department of Health for review and approval prior to any site activity. Said dust control plan is to be implemented during any site activities to ensure compliance with state air quality regulations. 16, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to be filed and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. This shall include the locations of stockpile and/or staging areas for construction equipment and materials. The applicant shall also address construction period traffic impacts by providing a detailed sequence of construction and addressing any space constraints and detailing how they'll be addressed as construction progresses. 17, the applicant shall install survey monuments to delineate the property line and the public right-of-way. Monuments shall be set by a professional land surveyor. 18, the applicant shall submit an AutoCAD file for the project prior to the issuance of a building permit. The file should be in Mass State Plane Coordinate System and preferably in Quincy Standard Data Layers. 19, upon completion of construction, the applicant shall submit a report including certified as-built plan from a professional engineer or surveyor certifying that the stormwater management system has been constructed in accordance with the approved plans. The report should include a certification that the excavations of the proposed system were inspected prior to backfilling. The applicant shall also provide the city engineer the digital file as-built plan showing all utilities, building footprints, reference bounds, and benchmarks defining the total site, facility, and rights-of-way along with an AutoCAD file. The as-built plan shall be in Mass State Plane Coordinate System. Plan should be stamped and signed by a professional land surveyor or professional engineer. 20, upon completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a stamped affidavit from a registered professional engineer that all the utilities, water, sewer, and drain are constructed as designed and no illicit connections are found on the completed project site. That would complete the department's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And is there a motion on that recommendation?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the 20 special and general conditions that Mr. Stevens just read and approve the project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. It's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, moving along to the next item on the agenda, it's public hearing 11, McGrath Highway Planning Board Case Number 2024-14.
Congratulations.
This public hearing shall be conducted to review the application of Galvin QS Development Company, 245 Willard Street, Quincy, Mass. 02169, for special permits under sections 8.3, Quincy Center District, 8.1.9, and 5.1.17 parking waiver. The applicant proposes the demolition of the existing 3-story nursing home facility and the construction of new 6-story building consisting of 50 residential units with structured and surface parking for a total of 64 spaces. The proposal will also include structured exterior space and amenity space for the residents, along with professionally designed drainage controls and landscaping. The property contains 44,037 square feet of land and is located at 5 to 1511 Mayor McGrath Highway and 11 to 21 Bigelow Street. The subject property is located within the Quincy Center zoning district and shown on Assessor's Map 1138, Lot 15, Plot 2. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, my name is Edward Fleming. I am here on behalf of Galvin QS Development Company, and I'm joined by Sean Galvin and Jim Burke from DeSalle Burke Sala Associates. Both Sean and Jim will speak in a moment. Sean will provide with a kind of detailed overview of the building design, while Jim will talk about the drainage in a moment. As you indicated, Madam Chair, the site's located within a Quincy Center zoning district 10, which allows for a number of different uses, including multifamily, which is being proposed here tonight, and it allows up to a 10-story building at this location. We are seeking 3 special permits from this body. The first special permit is a special permit under the Quincy Center zoning district, section Title 17, section 8.3, which requires a special permit for all construction within the Quincy Center zoning district of this magnitude. We are also seeking a floodplain special permit from this body. This body is actually has been designated as a special permit granting authority in the floodplain for Quincy Center zoning district matters. And lastly, we're seeking a special permit for a parking waiver to request a waiver from the parking requirements of the ordinance. In all other respects, this proposal, which is a multifamily proposal of 50 units, complies with all of the dimensional requirements of the ordinance with regard to lot size per unit, height, and other aspects as far as setbacks and other matters are related. What we're seeking, however, is a waiver from or a parking special permit from the parking requirement of the ordinance. However, in discussions with the city's planning department and in reviewing other matters, other proposals that have been before this board, we feel that the parking that's being provided for this development actually is very consistent with other developments in the area, and actually far exceeds some of the proposals that have been approved by the board in the Quincy Center zoning district. What I'd like to do now is then turn this over to Sean, let Sean kind of walk through the building design, and then we'll ask Jim to talk about the drainage control measures. Sean?
Good evening, thank you. I'm Sean Galvin. So the property we're talking about tonight is 11 McGrath Highway. Most of you know it's located across from the courthouse. It's been a nursing home in the past. The property fronts on the northerly side on McGrath Highway and on the rear by Bigelow Street. The site contains roughly just over an acre of land, and right now has a 43,000 square foot plus or minus former nursing home. Let me see, Joe. You didn't train me in this. There we go. And there's the nursing home. The former nursing home, originally built in the 60s, and with the later addition, housed 126 beds on 3 floors. It's been vacant. It's been closed about just a little more than 2.5 years at this point. The previous owner had fenced the site, and it's basically been sitting abandoned for the last couple of years. Our proposal is to demolish the existing building, construct a new 6-story residential building. The building would have 5 floors of residences over a 1-level parking garage. The building will house 50 units. There'd be 12 one-bedroom units, and there would be 38 two-bedroom units. All the vehicle access would be from the rear of the site. McGrath Highway does not lend itself to in and out. And there is a median in the way, so there'd be no left turn. So it makes more sense to have all the access from the rear of the property. You'd enter the rear of the property. There are 40 exterior spaces in the parking lot with an additional 24 spaces under the building in the garage. The building is built into the grade change so that Bigelow Street is about 8 or 9 feet lower than McGrath Highway. So as the building was built into the topography, the front of the building would only appear to be 5 stories, while the rear of the building would be 6 stories. So you'd only see the garage there on the back of the building. The site will be professionally landscaped. We're going to add a total of 7 trees, foundation plantings, walkway plantings, and all of the grass areas would be irrigated. The McGrath Highway entrance would be, as I said, pedestrian only. You'd enter the building through a 2-story, grand 2-story lobby. The rear of the property would have another lobby coming in from the parking lot side with a secure entrance to a secure garage. And there would also be a package room as part of that entranceway for deliveries. The exterior of the building, superior upgraded finishes, all block decorative, brick decorated block, balconies, bold cornices, round top windows. We think it'd be a nice add to that portion of the neighborhood. Really embraces kind of the historic Quincy design. The spread of units on the first floor, there are 4 one-bedrooms, and then there are 2 on each of the floors above that. The one-bedrooms are just over 700 square feet. The 2-bedrooms are 1,100 to 1,200 square feet on average. The building itself is all electric, meeting the new energy requirements. The units will have individually controlled energy-efficient heat pumps, and there will be EV charges provided at the parking level. There are various floor plans. The building itself is being constructed in a floodplain overlay district with a 100-year flood elevation of 15, which limits the use of the building below that elevation. So there's no living space, mechanical facilities to be located below that elevation. In addition, the project has a more restrictive requirement because of the elevation of the canal and Captown Brook, which runs across the back of the property. You can't really see it there, but it comes up on that dotted line and then takes a right and goes right across the property. Because the location of the floodplain, we've simulated the way that the site floods as it ebbs and flows. The flood and the ebb of the floodplain is required for construction within a floodplain to meet the FEMA regulations. The new structure must be able to empty from floodwaters by gravity. So in our design, we've actually increased the site's ability to accept flood water and set the building's lowest grade, the garage floor, commensurate with the natural ability of receding water to flow over to the top of the town brook, which is our limited minimum height. Our proposal also contains provisions to capture typical rain runoff and remove suspended solids from the water, which currently flow untreated directly into the river. We've reviewed and accepted most of the changes suggested by the city engineer and begun discussions on some outlying issues. Just today, we received the comments on the peer review, and we will address them accordingly. As Ed said, Jim Burke is here. He's the engineer that has designed our utilities and our drainage system, and probably would speak to it much more eloquently than I am. So if you have any questions for Jim or any questions about the project, we'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Joe, do we have civil plans loaded or no?
The ones you sent over to me.
Okay. Oh, heck yeah.
This way.
Oh, okay, I didn't know we had the control.
No, you're gonna go back to the non the other way, Jim.
Okay. I was hoping we'd have the existing conditions plan. But you know, the existing conditions plan, we did a pretty in-depth survey of the parcel, the old nursing home, the parking lots, the town brook. Town brook is actually located pretty well. You can actually see the cover of the brook itself, and we have a pretty good location of where it is, and you can pop the cover with the catch basins that are sitting actually literally on the roof of these town brook that allows the surface water to just kind of pour right in without any sort of controls. But you'll see the top of it is a 10-inch concrete cover over the top of town brook, along with the depth of it is, most of it is Quincy granite block that goes down, and it is tidal. You can actually watch the tide ebb and flood into this location. So I guess, you know, from an existing condition standpoint, the utilities that are servicing the existing building are sufficient to handle the load of the proposed building. You have 6-inch fire already, a 4-inch water service that's coming in off of McGrath Highway, gas coming in off and electric and the like. The big item on this particular job is really the stormwater control. It's located so far down gradient, the bottom of the watershed, detention isn't needed. Basically, you want to capture it, treat it, release it. And that's what we're proposing to do. We've maintained the grade on the proposed elevation. See if I get the grading plan. Yeah, that was it right there. grades are hard to see, but basically the elevation 11 cuts across the top of Town Brook. We put the garage floor also at 11 and kind of carved out where the catch basins are. You can see them, is this working? Yeah. You see the catch basins, the two dots on the side that have the Y connection coming into the line that's gonna feed into Town Brook. Those have proprietary structures and designed to handle, remove a certain amount of suspended solids and pollutants and the like. That goes into another proprietary water quality structure and becomes a redundant system. So it's our belief that we're meeting the water quality standards of current regulations, and the roof runoff is going to be a separate connection, bypass that whole system and tie in directly to Town Brook itself. You know, the parking areas are all graded accordingly to those catch basins. There's an existing, one of the existing ones, all the existing covers and grates are gonna be turned into covers, and no more inflow from those catch basins of Town Brook will be allowed. At that, I'd say, you know, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thanks.
This matter also appeared before the Conservation Commission, who issued an order of conditions subject to this board's final review. What they saw, however, is actually that the significant drainage control measures that were going to improve the water quality and the additional green space on the site that doesn't exist today. They saw that as true benefits to the Town Brook in the area. However, they deferred to this body because they understood that this body would be undergoing peer review as well as additional city comments. So that's our presentation tonight. This initial presentation will certainly, we received, I think this board received some comments from neighbors, specifically the 21 McGrath Highway, who raised some questions about the proposal. We're going to reach out to them and speak with them. We did have initial conversations with the councilors. There are 3 councilors. This actually sits within Ward 1. However, directly across the street is a different ward. So we've actually reached out to 3 city councilors, Councilors McCarthy, Councilor Ash, and Councilor Mitten, who we haven't spoken with, but we will reach out to discuss with them if there's any concerns from the community and try to address any additional comments and questions that may be raised.
Great.
Thank you.
Let me see if anybody has any questions. Any questions?
Just not Madam Chair, just.
Oh, yes.
First of all, I just want to say it's a very nice looking building. I really like the design. I think it's going to look and enhance that area down there. It's very nice. I like the design. All electric building. You said some key words in there. I like.
Did he mention cranes? No.
I was just curious, how many EV stations are you going to put in?
I'm sorry?
The EV stations?
So the requirement would be 20% of
Yeah.
the parking, so it would be 20% of the 60 spaces.
Okay. And then the lighting in the back parking lot, what are we going to do for the lighting in the back
So
parking lot?
If you could just, yeah, that way folks at home can hear you.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
So there are three pole lights indicated on the back of the building. The building will be self-lit to glow, not so much to provide lighting for the parking area itself. But let me see if I can turn us backwards here. No, that's not it. Yeah. Here, here. Those are proposed to be pole lamps. They would probably be 22 feet, dark sky, and shadowed, blocked from the adjacent residences.
Thank you, that's all.
Very good.
Any other questions? No? I just had 2 questions. The first, is it apartments or condos?
Well,
right now?
the proposal right now is condos. Given the economy, if everything stays right, that's what we do. If you're familiar with our history within the city, this should be a condominium project, so barring any unforeseen financial circumstances, that's our intention.
Okay. And then the second question I had was about the turnaround of vehicles, and really delivery truck, I guess, going into that back. I saw that there's just the one drive aisle. So it's just the idea that, a truck would come, I see where the dumpster would be,
Sure.
drive just back out and then come back down.
So we've looked at that, and after some conversation with the planning department, we widened the drive entrance to make sure it was 24 feet. The rest of the parking meets the standards as they're provided. We do have, and I'll just point again. So this area right here, it's actually a full parking space. We've striped it at this point. Our intention is to sign that probably for Uber or Meals drops off. So as an always open space, I think it provides an additional space for a vehicle to be able to turn around if that was necessary in that big triangle corner there. Otherwise, they would pull forward. For instance, your garbage truck would pull directly in, pull forward, lift and dumped from the front, back out, and then pull out of the parking lot.
Okay. All right, thanks. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so this is a public hearing. There are sign-in sheets in the event anybody would like to sign in, and open it up for public hearing in the event anyone is here to speak on this project. Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dan Minton. I'm the Ward 5 City Councilor. This building actually falls in Ward 5. Councilors Ash and McCarthy wanted to be here tonight, but they have prior engagements, but they're very interested in having a public meeting. So I will reach out to Attorney Fleming, and we'll get that organized. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this? No? Yes.
Hi, I'm Pamela Linsky, attorney at 21 McGrath Highway. Don't speak for all the unit owners, but the concern is the parking and the impact on our building. When the nursing home was there previously, there was huge implications to our parking lot. It's been vacant for 2.5 years. We now see this as a potential impact on our parking lot. We might be hopeful that as a good neighbor, potentially, gates at our property so that they can't be parking there. Just a suggestion, but that's the huge concern, is the impact. And also traffic. I do see that it's going to Bigelow Street, which doesn't impact our building per se. The parking seems to be the biggest piece. So for that reason, I know a lot of the unit owners, I know there's some letters that have gone out as well, saying that they would like the planning board to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll do one last call. Anyone wishing to speak? Okay. I do have 2 letters. The first is from Ward 1 Councilor Dave McCarthy. I will not be able to attend tonight, but I do wish that the following be conveyed to the board and placed in the record. 1, the area is in desperate need of an upgrade in this building. Replacing the blighted nursing room or home is a very big positive for the entire block. 2, I believe the parking, which is a relief issue, 44 spots versus 88, will not be an issue as the proximity to public transportation, Quincy Square amenities, etc. is abundant. 3, I will get a community meeting together ASAP and review concerns. 4, I will work with any bordering counselors as this is an area of crossing wards and can be a concern for this neighborhood. 5, lastly, I think the design and character of this first presentation contains an old school look that Quincy needs. Merry Christmas and God bless. The second correspondence is from Councilor Ash. Good evening. This evening I received a call from a constituent about this proposal. I believe it is in Ward 1, although maybe Ward 5, but abuts 2 and 5. I was not aware that it is on tomorrow's agenda. I am unavailable to attend the same due to a scheduling conflict. While I understand the project may be introduced, I respectfully request time to host a community meeting so the neighborhood residents are aware before there is a recommendation given by the board. Thank you. And we received correspondence dated December 17th, 2024. Dear Mr. Fatsis, I am writing to you as an abutter to comment on the application of Galvin Development to demolish the existing nursing home and construct a new 6-story building containing 50 residential units with parking for a total of 64 cars. I have owned a unit at the 21 McGrath Highway office condo building since its opening in 1987, and I have run my law office since that date. Although I am a 21 McGrath Highway Condo Association trustee, I am writing this letter as an individual abutter condo owner. I understand that this site is overdue for meaningful redevelopment, given that there is a dilapidated, closed nursing home on the site. I also understand that Galvin Development has done other projects in the city and is well regarded. Further, the building overall appears to be both attractive and well thought out in most respects. However, I have concerns in the following areas. 1, parking. Parking has been an issue in this area for a long time, and given its close proximity to downtown Quincy, authorized parking at the 21 McGrath Highway building has been a problem in the past. The former nursing home clearly did not have enough parking, and our parking lot got the overflow. Looking at a typical floor plan, it appears there are 6 2-bedroom apartments and 4 1-bedroom apartments on each of the 5 floors. So that means 10 separate units per floor containing a total of 16 bedrooms per floor, or 80 total bedrooms for the entire building. Since one of the ways young people can afford the high rents these days is to have roommates, one can assume a number, if not a majority, of the 2-bedroom units will be occupied by at least 2 residents. It is usually assumed that proximity to the MBTA requires less parking. However, in reality, most young people, which is the demographic most likely to rent in this building, will still own an automobile and keep it parked in the apartment's parking lot, even if they are taking the T to work on a given day. Therefore, my concerns with the requirement of 88 parking spots and the proposed number of only 64 parking spaces that will likely lead to overflow parking by residents and guests of the proposed apartment building in the 21 McGrath Highway parking lot. 2, proximity to lot line. My other concern is that on the McGrath Highway side, the proposed building is only 6 feet from the line. That is very close and even closer than the existing building. As you can see in the photograph attached, there are 2 mature trees on the 21 McGrath Highway property in this area, which will need to be substantially pruned to make room for the 11 McGrath Highway building so close to the lot line. Conditions should be imposed on the manner of these trees being pruned so as to preserve them as a benefit to this area. See plans and photograph attached for your convenience. 3, drainage. The third area of concern I would like to address is drainage. I have not had the time to go through carefully the civil and drainage plans for the proposed project. However, due to the presence of the town brook running through both the 11 and 21 McGrath Highway properties, the area is vulnerable to potential flooding. Over a year ago, the city of Quincy completed a project to rebuild the town brook culvert in this area. That project included replacing a cap that was at least 8 years old and was in many locations collapsing into the brook. As a representative of the 21 McGrath Highway Condominium Association, I work cooperatively with the City of Quincy DPW, outside engineers and contractors to facilitate this work under the 21 McGrath Highway parking lot. I hope that the planning board will carefully review the applicant's civil and drainage plans to ensure that the proposed development will not adversely affect drainage or flooding in the area, including review by a peer review engineer if that has not already been done. Respectfully submitted, Paul Lasordo. And that is it for comments that we've received.
Madam Chair, may I just-
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Galvin, I feel like I wouldn't be doing the men and women of the city of Quincy any justice if I didn't say this, but when choosing a contractor, please consider someone who can hire the men and women who live in the city. This is a great project. They would really appreciate working on a project of this magnitude.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate your suggestion.
Can I ask a question as well, Madam Chair?
Yes, yeah.
So, you guys have a lot of experience building condominiums in the city. Your reputation is excellent. So I would have to believe that you guys have put together a really thought-out process and looked at the history to say, what are the demographics that are going into these buildings in your past experience? And the reason I say that is because when we start to look at what's happening, just in the Globe today, there was an article about Somerville has decided that they're gonna release the parking, and they're doing the same. Cambridge did it, right? You no longer have to meet the requirements on the parking requirements.
No parking, yeah.
No parking. Somerville said they're doing it now. I don't know if Quincy's gonna do it. I'm not suggesting that we are. But it seems as though the group of people that are coming in now, and you can tell me right or wrong, they don't have as many automobiles, because, I was down in Quirk today looking at automobiles, and the cars are between $50,000 and $75,000. Now, they have to make a choice. Are you gonna buy a $75,000 or a $50,000 car, have 2 of them, or try and buy a condominium to start your family and maybe get a foothold so that someday you can have the lawn and the swing and all that stuff? So what, in your experience, are you guys looking at something that's gonna, do you think it's gonna be too many cars there? Do you think, what is your thought there?
So it's interesting, and I'll reference just our two most recent condominium projects. One is Cliveden Place, which was 58 units, and we provided 58 parking spaces. And we wrestled with that at a time because we were a little bit ahead of the new curve where, you know, we're all been encouraged in downtown planning that we don't need cars and parking anymore because everyone's going to take rapid transportation. Well, they haven't, and the red line has proved unsatisfactory in that way. So in a lot of ways, the recent improvements on the red line will affect what's happening in the future. We just completed 40 units in North Quincy, so after having that discussion with the planning department, we provided 2 units, 2 parking spaces per unit. We had 40 inside spaces and 40 outside spaces. The building is fully occupied and the 40 outside spaces are empty. Empty. So the 1-to-1 isn't bad. We feel because they're ownership units, everybody is going to want to have at least 1 parking space. So we would have insisted on 1 parking space. The many apartment buildings, the 3 large projects that were recently built, have less than 1 parking space per unit. There's several of them that were completed early on. We felt the 1.3 ratio here would be sufficient. It allows for some second vehicle parking, but it certainly allows for visitor parking, which the 1-to-1 ratio does not, obviously, and would force these people. The advantage for this building is that we're right across the street from the new parking garage. So literally, you walk across the street and you can pay a pretty reasonable price for a couple hours of parking. So we think that's an advantage here. In terms of the 64 spaces, we're probably going to have 20 empty ones. And with all due respect to my neighbors at 21 McGrath, I'm more concerned about them parking in our parking lot than us parking in theirs.
Maybe your condominium people will rent it out.
There you go. And it's symbiotic because it's a residential project, so our parking is nights and weekends, and their project more than likely is daytime parking. So it may actually be there could be some wonderful deal struck that could solve both those issues, but we're glad to talk to them about the issues and make sure that we don't have a negative impact on the neighborhood.
I think it's a beautiful building, too.
Thank you very much.
So I don't know, who's your architect on that?
Design Resources.
It's beautiful.
So Attorney Fleming or Mr. Galvin, we heard tonight, obviously, from all of the counselors, that there needs to be a community meeting and they would like to hold it. So just in terms of timing of that with the holiday coming up, are you thinking 1 month, 2 months, just, to take the comments and respond to
I don't
those?
see any reason we couldn't meet with them in early January if they're willing. Of course, there are, now there's 3 counselors with busy schedules. We'll do the best we can get to get them all in the room. I'm glad to meet with them individually and host a meeting and report the results. However they want to handle it. I'd only personally had a chance to speak with Dave McCarthy and Richard Ashton. I know the counselors here this evening. Whatever they want to do. I actually believe we are in Ward 1. It's an odd little.
I think across the street is 5,
Yeah.
unless it's changed.
City council office is one.
Okay.
Sorry.
I apologize. You should have been my first contact. And that's what.
They
we
change
did.
these wards all the time. You
I
never know.
was just going by GIS when we looked it up.
Yeah, same.
And Robert, right?
One,
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
We'll double check that
All
with
right.
the city's
But
engineers.
regardless, I wanted to go to the right counselor first and have him set up the meeting with the appropriate counselors. So now we'll talk to Dan and we'll make sure that we can put together a meeting and we'll coordinate with Dave and Richard.
So that's the question, I guess, for Councilor Minton, maybe, is whether or not we can host a meeting before the 17th. I know the next meeting is on the 17th. We'd
It would
love
be,
to.
I'm sorry, the 15th.
Oh, it's on the 15th?
January 15th.
Yeah, that's the Wednesday.
15th, okay.
is the Wednesday. I would report to the board that Mr. Galvin's application wasn't in on the deadline. He came in early for the December meeting. We've just recently received the peer review report, so the review is very much underway. Yeah, I mean,
So we may
my
be-
recommendation, absent the counselor's desire to do a neighborhood meeting, would be 1 month and see him back in January. And I suppose if the meeting doesn't happen, you know, Mr. Galvin may be willing to just ask for a continuance to the February meeting.
And we
if-
could
if-
certainly
if the
reach out
council is,
in
but-
advance, yeah.
But
That would be great.
I'm comfortable with January, at least from the technical review point, because we did get that peer review report. We've seen the lag on civil engineering comments, I think, in our cases, but in this regard, the application has been with us with plenty of time. We got the report in.
I think that would be great. So it's set, it's the 15th if possible. Thank you.
Okay.
And check the website, because I thought I read the 17th on the schedule. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I know it's on Wednesday.
Yeah,
It does say the 15th on the schedule.
Wednesday, the 15th, yes.
Okay, great.
We'll double check the schedule we would post for the board.
Yeah.
But I actually looked at that at my desk today too, to double check, and
I
it was
probably
the
misread
15th.
it.
Before you ask for a motion, I just want to make one comment to the board. In 2005, the city adopted the special district called Quincy Center Zoning District. It put a lot of the review of projects that come forward in the zoning district with this board. And one of the hooks is normally the zoning board of appeal hears special permit requests for the floodplain overlay district. But in Quincy Center zoning district, that power flows to this board. It's sort of like an attempt to do expedited permitting by bundling that here. My experience with the city is, I've been here long enough to go through the Concourse Roadway project, which is now the Hannon Parkway, Revere Road. There was a lot of focus with the Town Brook. There was a concept at one time for a Bigelow Street drain. We've analyzed that. The department also, while I was there, worked with the Town Brook relocation project as well, where we modeled the Town Brook. And I would acknowledge the emergency repairs, I think, came forward in a comment about a year ago, where DPW had to work on some of the culvert areas over on Bigelow on an emergency basis. So, the department's well-versed. I would say if you folks have any questions as you look at some of the floodplain that we don't normally look at, feel free to call in to me, and we can have a conversation. And I feel confident as a department we can work through some of the environmental issues that it goes along with this geographic area.
All right.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is there a motion to continue to January 15th?
Make a motion, we continue to January 15th, 2025.
I know, crazy.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? So that's unanimous. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Nice job.
Merry Christmas.
Right. So the next item, well, now we're on to the business meeting, new business, Eastern Nazarene College Campus Preliminary Subdivision Planning Board Case Number 2024, Subdiv 01. Initial presentation to the planning board for a proposed preliminary subdivision of the Eastern Nazarene College Campus. The project proposes to create one full thoroughfare with 23 residential single-family lots, one cul-de-sac roadway with 7 residential single-family lots, and one cul-de-sac roadway with 2 residential multifamily lots.
Great. Yep, Madam Chair, through you to the board, I want to read a piece of correspondence I received this evening. It is addressed to me. It's from Attorney Kevin Freitag of the firm Hemingway and Barnes LLP. And it reads, turn it sideways. Dear Mr. Stevens, as you know, this firm represents Eastern Nazarene College, and college is in quotations. In connection with the preliminary subdivision plan, it filed with the Planning Department on October 31st, 2024, concerning several parcels of land owned by the college in Quincy. See Planning Board Case Number 2024 Subdiv-01. Thank you for your invitation to the college to attend tonight's meeting of the Planning Board, during which the board intends to discuss the plan. While the college appreciates the invitation, it will not be present at tonight's meeting. Nevertheless, we look forward to receiving and reviewing the board's comments on the plan. Very truly yours, Kevin S. Freitag. What we have, the board's 2 primary functions The one we most normally do is under Mass General Law 40A, which deals with zoning and how that's applied here in the city of Quincy through site plan review or special permits. Another realm of Mass General Law this board is required to review is under the subdivision control law, which is under Mass General Law, Chapter 41. And subdivision control deals with the laying out of new roadways. And that's what the college has provided the department. I'm sure everyone has a chance to review the plans. There's an option, there's rules and regulations that the prior board members have adopted on the process for subdivision plans. It contemplates a preliminary submission to the board. So that's what we received in October 31st. Subdivisions are required to also be reviewed by the Department of Health. It's not really applicable to the city. It's that element of the subdivision control law, I believe, is designed more for those communities that are on septic systems, that are gonna unlock large tracts of land with subdivisions, so the Board of Health is part of, reviewing septic systems. Nevertheless, we did receive a comment letter from the Department of Health, which is, one of the required things, talks about some of the demolition. And since this is the, proposal to lay out new roadways on their three sort of primary campus areas, we also solicited feedback from the city engineer. Now, these are comments, not conditions. I have prepared a draft communication, if the board so endorses these plans tonight, where I incorporated the comments from the Department of Health and the city engineer. If the board chooses to make this their comments or wants to add any additional comments during discussion of the matter, we could do that. And this would get communicated back to the applicant, where they would have up to 7 months to submit a definitive plan, that would then carry with it, I believe, a public hearing at that time. But there's no requirement for public hearing. This is a business item in front of the board. This isn't really a review or approval of these layouts. It's an opportunity to provide comment back to an applicant who's proposing to build new roadways and create new developable lots. So the board's not approving any development tonight. Again, we're sort of channeling comments from, two city departments, as well as any the board or even the planning department may have. So that's sort of the gist of this application. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me at this time. Okay, I did share a draft communication. I think it might be helpful, especially for the audience, if they could just hear this, and so I'll go through it and read it up. Okay, so the department did receive the health department and city engineer comments. We just copied and pasted those into this communication. I'll read, and these are comments. They'll read like conditions, but comment 1 would be add flood zone lines to the plan, show the areas of potential flood hazard within the subdivision boundaries or within 200 feet of the subdivision boundaries. 2, add contour lines for the existing and proposed grade of the land to be subdivided, especially in the areas where proposed finished streets meet city streets. 3, add existing grades on both sides of the road. The roadway finished grade information should be expressed in percent, and proposed finished grade elevations in 50-foot increments should be provided on the roadway profile. 4, add radii of arcs, angles of the proposed street and cul-de-sac, show dimensions, roadway stationing of the sidewalk and street, provide roadway cross-section. 5, site distance dimensions should be provided at intersection with the existing roadways. 6, cement concrete sidewalks and granite curbs should be used for the public right-of-way. 7, the location of signage, street signs, stop signs, etc., and pavement markings, stop bars, etc., have not been depicted on the plans and need to be included. 8, show the easement of any existing and proposed utilities, water, sewer, and drains on the subdivision parcels. Eliminate existing easement if pipes were abandoned or are proposed to be abandoned. The existing utilities are reused. Submit reports to show the existing utilities are capable of managing new development. 9, show all existing and proposed improvements shown distinctly different line types. 10, explain how the stormwater will be managed along Collegiate Way, formerly Harding Street, and all the cul-de-sacs. Also identify the operation and maintenance responsibility of any proposed drainage system. 11, clarify whether the Collegiate Way and the cul-de-sacs will be private or public ways and identify what names will be given to the cul-de-sacs. 12, right-of-way monuments are required at all points of curvature and angles for the proposed streets. Location and details of the required details are not depicted on the plans and need to be included. 13, the applicant needs to confirm A, any open space that will be provided, B, any mature street trees that will be removed, C, any benchmark that has been set up. 14, the applicant should be aware that A, installation of sanitary sewer facilities to serve all buildings, lots to be created by approval of the subdivision. Such installation is subject to the inspection and approval of the city engineer. B, installation of storm water drains in all proposed private ways. Such installation is subject to inspection and approval of the city engineer. C, the construction of all proposed private ways to proper subgrade in accordance with the specifications of the Division of Engineering and in accordance with plans approved by the planning board. D, surfacing of all roadways and shoulders and construction of all sidewalks in accordance with the specifications of the Division of Engineering and in accordance with the plans approved by the planning board. We'll shift to the Health Department comments. Rodent control, the project proponent must submit rodent control plan to the Health Department for review and approval prior to any site activity. Said plan must be designed for the duration of the project and include a minimum the following: name, contact information of a licensed pest control operator to be retained by the project proponent during the duration of the project. The logbook of the licensed pest control operator must be available for inspection by representatives of Quincy Health Department and/or inspectional services. Logbook must be include a diagram of the property with a location of all bait stations, MSDS for the pesticides being used, and license and insurance information of the pest control operator. 2, the scope of the proposed plan for control of rodents, including number of bait stations, location, frequency, and monitoring of bait stations, and the anticipated length of service. At minimum, bait stations must be placed every 15 to 20 feet around the perimeter of the work site. Bait stations must be placed at least 1 week prior to demolition and/or commencement of any site activity. Bait stations must be provided an uninterrupted 10-day supply of bait as per label instruction, with subsequent monitoring for rodent activity during the duration of the project. 3, a summary of actions to be taken to prevent rodent problems at the construction site, i.e. trash cans, dumpsters on site with frequency of disposal and appropriate trash control by workers. 16, environmental controls. Dust, the project proponent must develop an adequate dust control plan to be implemented during any proposed construction activity to ensure conformance with state and local regulations regarding air pollution. Noise, project proponent must commit to the conformance with both local and state regulations regarding noise, since the development may entail noise-generating activities. Demolition, regulations require pre-demo survey for any potential asbestos-containing materials to be conducted by a DLI certified inspector. If ACM is present, it must be removed by a licensed contractor, and a post-abatement inspection must be performed by a DLI certified project monitor. Pre-demolition inspection of both structures will be required to be performed by the Health Department. 18, portable sanitation units. Portable sanitation units must be on site at time of demolition and construction phases. Application is provided on the City of Quincy webpage under Health Department fees. $25 per unit can be paid online through Unipay. State Sanitary Code, the proposed residential units to be developed will be required to meet all provisions of Article 2 of the State Sanitary Code, minimum standards of fitness for human habitation, 105 CMR Section 410. Those would be the comments the department had received from the Department of Health and city engineers.
And so then the hope is these matters or items are addressed in the definitive plan that's subsequently submitted and we as a board review.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about those?
No.
Okay.
It's great. Great. So I think just an endorsement of the department's communication and to transmit it, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
From the board.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
So there were two new business items, review and determination. I think both of the A&R plans, Eastern Nazarene College, that's case number 2024 A&R 13, and an A&R plan, 37R 86 Parking Way, 2024 A&R 14. Those are, I think, are entitled to endorsement, so they're being endorsed. And the final item is an old business update on the, although newly revamped, I think, 2025 to 2032 open space and recreation plan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, through you to the board. I believe this is the third time the open space plan has been on this agenda. So the last time the board endorsed the plan to be submitted to the state, we did go ahead and do that, and we got some feedback. So if I could just back up a touch, the open space plan is a state plan, required by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It contemplates a plan, could be either a 5 or a 7 year plan cycle. So the city has adopted a 7-year plan cycle. The current plan we adopted in 2019, and it was preliminarily approved. It did have some additional requirements that the state would like to see. And then soon thereafter, the COVID health emergency hit. So that plan sort of sat for a couple of years. Folks were busy with the health emergency, the state office, how do you have public meetings, that sort of thing. So beginning in the end of 2023, the department started working with the Department of Natural Resources on updating that sort of mid-plan progress, we updating the plan that was sort of halfway through its 7-year cycle. We had updated it and sort of updated sort of years 5, 6, and 7, and that was the plan that we submitted. The feedback from the state was they did not want to grant an extension of that plan, but what they did say is, why don't you just hit the reset button on a new 7-year cycle? So after receiving that feedback, my counterpart in the Department of Natural Resources, Heather List, sort of dove into some of the tables and charts and action items and started dropping off some of the things that we've already accomplished, but they were in year 2020. And then she went ahead and added out or projected out new action items, that carry into a new sort of 7-year cycle. So what we were looking for with the board, because we'll resubmit that plan to the state, was just an acknowledgement and an endorsement by this board that, that seems like a perfectly good strategy and we appreciate the state's guidance on suggesting we go forward with a brand new 7-year plan cycle.
Yes, that sounds good.
Any questions?
No.
No?
So moved.
Okay. So
Do
we'll
you want
vote?
to endorse? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Opposed?
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second that too.